Jordan Peele has done it again. The latest feature project of the Oscar winner has debuted #1 at the box office, which is the third time the writer-director has released a #1 box office film.
100%.
I love Jordan Peele.
Nope is the highest-grossing film with an original screenplay since Peele's sophomore project, Us. With positive audience and review scores, Peele seems to have viewers eating out of the palm of his hand with his latest release, Nope.
So why the is Logan Paul trashing Nope on Twitter?
The airplane mode star has referred to Nope as the worst movie he's seen in a long time.
It affected me so much so that I had to write a dissertation. It's broken up into 12 different tweets.
Unless Logan Paul has been watching The Godfather on repeat for the past few years, I am highly skeptical of this claim. Not to say that Nope is Godfather-level cinema, but for reasons I will soon get into, it is far from bottom-tier film. Alright, here's the tier chart, okay? Godfather 1 and 2, Garfield, Nope, 50 Layers of Shit, Airplane Mode. Thinning 2. Did Thinning 2 ever get released?
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
Listen, I'm not here to shit all over Logan Paul's IMDb. Frankly, he already did that himself. However, I've been meaning to make a video on Nope for a while, and when I saw Logan Paul's Twitter thread on Nope, it was like I was given divine inspiration. Now I've seen Nope 3 times now, and to be fair to Logan Paul, there's a fair amount that will go over your head in the first viewing, which is why I think Logan's thread here is a perfect baseline for discussing the film. Because it's written like his only takeaway from the movie was aliens and monkeys scary. Which, if you're looking at the film like that and clearly missing some of the film's core messaging, yeah, I could see why you would have a lesser opinion on the movie. Now, everyone is entitled to have their own opinions, and if you didn't like Nope, that's fine. I even agree with Logan on a few of the points he makes. But if you're gonna have a hot take, you better have some evidence to back it up, or I'm gonna make fun of you. Before we get into the thread, I'm gonna drop a quick spoiler alert. I'm gonna be getting pretty specific on some of the events that happen in the film, so if you haven't seen Nope, you've been warned. Now to start, we should examine Logan's thesis for the thread, which is as follows. Jordan Peele is attempting to recreate the shock from Get Out in Us. Mystery, violent allure, and cinematic choices made for the sake of reaction instead of legitimate contribution to the storyline. Going on to say, it's hard to conceptualize something disturbing. A trained chimp goes animalistic and mauls an entire set, or a UFO devours anything in its path. It is hard to sensibly tie it to the plot, which was done remarkably poor here. The core of what he's trying to say here is that the disaster on the Gordy's home set and the Haywood's attempts to try and capture footage of the UFO are not connected, or at the very least, their connection is stretched. Which couldn't be any more wrong. One of the main themes of the film is how people will do anything to create a spectacle. The main way this is shown throughout the film is how humans treat animals. Animals are being used here as a visual stand-in for spectacle. Animals tend to capture the attention of a viewer, and if you need any evidence of this, look no further than the Muybridge experiment. Is it Muybridge? Hold on.
Edward Muybridge.
Muybridge. The Muybridge experiment plays a central role in the film. The two protagonists in the film, OJ and Emerald, are descendants of the jockey in the Muybridge experiment. One question the film asks us is, how come no one ever remembers the name of the jockey? Keke Palmer's character, Emerald, says it herself when she says he's the first movie star, stuntman, and animal wrangler all rolled into one, yet there's no record of them. Well, by taking a closer look at the Muybridge experiment, we can see that the primary focus was to settle a bet by the former governor of California, Leland Stanford. Yes, that's Stanford. Stanford had a bet on whether or not a horse keeps at least 1 foot on the ground as it runs. And in case you're wondering, it does not. The point is here, since the conception of cinema, we've been using animals to create amusement in audiences, or better put, a spectacle. The inclusion of the Muybridge experiment here is also commentary on the erasure of black culture from the cinematic canon, but y'all aren't ready to hear my spiel on that yet. Connecting this back to Gordy the Monkey and the UFO, Gordy's Home, a show starring a live ape, is described by the film as being one of the most popular shows on television, largely in part due to the ape on the show. Now, Peele's point here isn't that animals are spectacle, it's that people's drive to create spectacle leads to some unsavory situations. Gordy's Home may have been a massive success, but at the end of the day, you can't really tame a wild animal. What made the show so successful ultimately led to its downfall. The UFO relates to Gordy because both the Haywoods and Jupe tried to tame it in order to create a spectacle of their own. Jupe does this by trying to create a live show, while the Haywoods just attempt to capture video of it. The Gordy sequences are not just thrown in there for shock value, as Logan suggests. Not only does it thematically connect to the rest of the film, it also gives vital backstory on the character Jupe. Now, you would think after witnessing the horrors on the set of Gordy's home, that Jupe wouldn't try to tame something like a UFO. However, Jupe doesn't appear to think of his experience on Gordy's home as a complete negative. My theory is as follows. Jupe believes that Gordy is experiencing some form of temporary psychosis after the balloons pop. My reasoning for this is in part based upon the SNL skit that Jupe describes to OJ and Emerald. Now, one could interpret this as him compartmentalizing what he saw that day, and that he still is at least scarred in some manner by it. But in his description, he says that each time Gordy hears the word jungle, which is substituting the popping balloons here, that Gordy goes completely nuts. Jupe says that the sketch here pretty much nails what happened. Now, like I said before, he could just be saying it nailed it so he doesn't actually have to describe his trauma to these pretty much strangers at this point. But I think this gives some weight to the idea that Jupe thinks that Gordy was a good monkey, he just was triggered when he heard the sound of the popping balloons. Further evidence is at the end of the Gordy scene, where Gordy attempts to give Jupe a fist bump. This moment where Gordy snaps out of his murderous rampage to exchange a seemingly sweet gesture with his friend could be the reason why Jupe doesn't think that Gordy was all that bad. My final piece of evidence to support this claim is the shrine that Jupe has in his office.
I usually charge a fee for this.
The shrine goes beyond memorabilia from the show, though. Jupe has encased numerous objects from the incident itself, the most notable being the upright shoe, but also includes the watch that the dad gives Gordy and a party hat from the set. If Jupe was truly traumatized from this incident, he wouldn't bother to keep these artifacts around. Instead, Jupe's stint on Gordy's home seems to be a point of pride for him, as he was the co-star on one of the most popular shows in the country. With all that being said, it's not hard to see why Jupe would believe that he's tamed an alien species, especially after his successful test shows. This is shown briefly in the Clover section of the film. The words that Jupe will later repeat in his failed show can be heard as OJ tries to retrieve Clover after she's left out by Jupe's kids. The speakers and lights in the distance also cut off, and a trail of dust can be seen ascending into the sky. Horse screams can also be heard as the UFO passes OJ, suggesting that Jupe has been feeding the horses that OJ has been selling him. This is also evident by Jupe's reaction when OJ asks if he could buy any of the horses back. Jupe gets nervous because he knows those horses aren't coming back. With all that being said, it's fairly clear how both the Gordy incident and the UFO are linked both in the plot and thematically. Now that I've debunked Logan Paul's thesis, let's take a look at some of the more specific points he makes. Number 1. No one was curious how a quarter shot through a man's face and killed him, or why a key was lodged in the backside of a horse he was riding. This is a pretty easy debunk. First, it was explained in the film as objects falling out of a plane. Now, whether a coin falling out of a plane hitting you directly in the eye could kill you is a question better left to physicists and not film nerds, but I suspect that it probably could. The supposed non-UFO cause of death, though, is right there in the film, and they say it at least twice that I could count. So yes, someone was curious enough to provide an, albeit wrong, but plausible cause of death. Number 2. How/why was the shoe upright on the set of Gordy's home? This one is an interesting one, because I believe it's purposely left open-ended by Jordan Peele. I've seen some theories suggesting that this is the UFO's doing, but we don't see the UFO doing anything nearly as precise as lifting a shoe up. Plus, if the UFO's presence was there, the lights and the cameras would be off in the studio. Some people have also said that the UFO being there also explains Gordy's irrational behavior, but I believe that the balloons popping are probably a more likely cause of Gordy going nuts than any alien interference. Along with, we're not shown at any other moment the UFO being able to do any of these things. So why does the shoe stand up? Here's my theory. The shoe is a bad miracle. I believe the idea of bad miracles is core to the story of this film. When Jordan Peele first tweeted and posted on Instagram the trailer for Nope, he captioned it, "What is a bad miracle?" This question is also asked by Daniel Kaluuya's character OJ, and in the trailer.
What's a bad miracle? They got a word for that?
Now, a bad miracle isn't clearly defined anywhere, so I'll just try to give you my definition I formed from both watching the film and looking at theories online. A bad miracle appears to be something so improbable and amazing that the likelihood of it happening is on par with a miracle, like, for instance, stumbling across the existence of extraterrestrials. What separates bad miracles from regular miracles, though, is that bad miracles will have some horrifying or disturbing twists. Like, hooray, you found aliens, but now it's raining human blood over your house and your dad's dead. That kind of thing. The shoe, in my opinion, is an example of a bad miracle because it is a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon that you would see a shoe stand up in this way. It just so happens that it's during a murderous rampage of a chimpanzee. Much emphasis in the film is placed upon eye contact. The most apparent use of this is if you don't look at the UFO won't eat you. My theory is that Jupe focusing on the shoe and not looking at Gordy is in part what kept him alive during the rampage. Further proof of this is when the lampshade rolls in front of the shoe, and it is in that exact moment that Gordy turns his attention to Jupe. My theory is that Jupe focusing on the shoe and not on Gordy is in part what kept him alive during the attack, further emphasizing the shoe being a miracle. That's just my opinion, though, on what the shoe might possibly mean. If you have any thoughts or ideas on what the shoe means, please feel free to comment. Number 3. The deep voice cinematographer was cryptic for no reason other than to be cryptic. You're telling me this guy was willing to die because he wanted better lighting to capture the ET? For real? I honestly don't think he was that cryptic. The most cryptic thing he says is when he's on the phone with Emerald and he states, "That dream of yours where you're on the top of the mountain, all eyes on you, that's the kind of dream you never wake up from." Which of all people Logan Paul should probably understand considering the amount of scrutiny he receives as a public figure. The second cryptic thing he says is to Angel where he says, "The light, it will be magic hour soon." This is clearly in reference to Golden Hour. In fact, before this scene they say that they were planning on filming the UFO during Golden Hour, and it isn't until the TMZ reporter interrupts them that they kind of have to speed up their process. Golden Hour is something that Logan Paul should definitely know, considering he was at least at some point a videographer.
This movie fucking sucked. I love Jordan Peele.
The last cryptic thing he says to Angel is, "We don't deserve the impossible." He says this right before he goes on to film himself being devoured by a UFO. Now I have a couple theories as to why he does this. The first being that the cinematographer was dying from some illness not explicitly stated in the film. Before they begin the final experiment, we can see the cinematographer taking some pills, suggesting that he might have some terminal illness. Perhaps he was okay with being eaten because he was already going to die soon. My translation of him saying, "We don't deserve the impossible," is him knowing that the film he shoots may never get developed, but if he's going to die, it will be to get the impossible shot. Not really cryptic for the sake of being cryptic like Logan Paul suggests. Number 4, same note, man on the motorcycle. Why was his voice deep and robotic? Framed to be an antagonist who would have a grand reveal, mystery for the sake of mystery is confusing and leaves too many open ends for the viewer trying to invest themselves in a storyline. This gives me point going way over your head meme kind of vibes. He's not that mysterious. It's very clear that he's a stand-in for a TMZ reporter. Him not being the antagonist the trailer suggests is called subverting your expectations. Him being a TMZ reporter also hammers home on many of the themes I discussed earlier. I won't get too much farther into this point because I feel the TMZ reporter's connection to the pursuit of spectacle is fairly self-explanatory. Number 5. In a crowd of 40 people, the actress who was mauled on the set of Gordy's home was there. Why? Shock factor because of her scarring? Does she go to all of them? Did she come before the ET feeding? This point I actually kind of agree with. Mary Jo is kind of thrown into this scene to be like, "Ew! Look at the cripple!" Adding one more scene with her to further characterize her post Gordy's home incident would have done a lot to just make her seem less like a sight scare. Number 6. Jupe has trauma with the phenomenon of commercializing predators for profit. And for the last 6 months, he's been feeding horses to an ET in the sky. But what about before that? What is the purpose of the creepy cowboy theme park? Not going to get too deep into this one because I already discussed why Jupe would be comfortable doing something like this. Also, I'd like to point out that Logan Paul misspelled phenomenon. I will answer the last question though because it makes me wonder whether or not me and Logan Paul watched the exact same movie. There's a very real chance that he walked into Croods 2 and was wondering the entire film why Daniel Kaluuya was animated and sounded a lot like Nicolas Cage. To answer Logan's question though, Jupe owns a cowboy theme park because he starred in a show called Kid Sheriff. The movie mentions this several times. Crazy that you even have to ask this. Number 7. Why was so much emphasis placed on the name of the horses? They had title cards. Why? I've already gone over the importance of animals in this film and how they relate to the central themes. I'd also like to point out that each of the animals in the title cards had some level of importance in the scene that followed. Gordy is the title card for the scene before Gordy's rampage. Clover is the title card for when Clover is let out by Jupe's kids and subsequently leads to the first UFO sighting of the film. Lucky is the title card for the scene where Jupe tries to feed Lucky to the UFO. And Jean Jacket is the final title card because that's the name they give to the UFO, and the scene that follows is them trying to film the UFO. So I'm going to skip number 8 because it's just actress I liked wasn't in much of the movie. That's not really a critique, it's just a statement. Number 9. Way to strip all the life from a phenomenal actor, Daniel Kaluuya, by casting him as possibly the most mundane vanilla character I've ever seen. Not a question, I'm just pissed. I disagree with this take. I don't think that every character has to be super animated for them to be interesting. Kaluuya's character is reserved, and his dynamic works very well with the fast-talking Keke Palmer.
It's about their ability to go from not connecting to acknowledging they have always seen each other.
There's just innate love for each other. The brother, sister, being friends. That's them being real. I've rarely seen that.
Let's go, boy!
Number 10. An extraterrestrial creature that is advanced enough to fully shapeshift, activate an anti-electromagnetic field, and propel itself in any direction quickly and quietly, can't tell the difference between a plastic inflatable and a viable meal. Nope. This last point that Logan Paul makes is probably one of the dumbest yet. This is like saying if sharks can detect electromagnetic fields with their snout, how come they still fall for the bait on my hook? There's no technology behind the UFO's powers. It's clearly not an intelligent being. It just so happens to have these abilities. At the end of the day, it's just an animal. So that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to smash like, subscribe. I might do some more film analysis in the future. I have a couple ideas. Other than that though, peace.
By the way, don't fucking listen to me. Go see the movie, form your own opinion.